Looks like we're live. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Hopefully you're enjoying your day. Today I just wanted to share a few stories and help you with any questions you might have because as usual I'm all about helping people speak fluently, and what's really required for this, as we'll talk more about in this video, is feeling certain about what you want to say. All right, we'll give a moment for YouTube to, hopefully we got people coming. All right, it looks like we are live. All right. Well, today I wanted to share, again, two stories. The first one was something I happened to see here on YouTube. One of the things I recommend in my new book is getting a variety of examples of actual native speakers. And a very simple way to do this, one of the things I do for learning Japanese is watching street interviews. So this is an example of what I call naturally varied review, where you're getting to see people, like one example in this street interview situation would be you're hearing different people answer the same question. So you're getting to hear slight variation or often even some pretty wild variation between different answers. But it really is a great way to, when you're learning something, I'll just give a quick explanation of this. But when you have a textbook will typically give you maybe one good example or maybe even a few for a particular situation. So if we have a greeting, you'll get hello or good afternoon or something like that. You might hear a few greetings from that. But in real life, we'll put the speech bubble here, typically you'll hear all kinds of things. Even you can see people in the chat here when they're greeting people. Some people say hi, some people say hey, and the word like hello is hey, H-E-Y. If you say H-A-Y, H-A-Y, that's more like the grass, you know, like dry grass, hay. They sound exactly the same though, hay. But the point is, in a real conversation, you'll get exposure to lots of variation, and that's how native speakers become prepared for real communication. Because if you don't know what people are going to say and you're not ready, you haven't heard various examples, it's a lot more different to go from this, just hearing maybe one thing, and this is just for one situation, like hearing a greeting. So people who are already reading the book will probably know what I'm talking about. I talk about this a lot, actually, these different examples using naturally varied review, because this is really the secret to being able to develop these things, like this ability to say what you like whenever you like, just like I'm talking right now, because I've had exposure to lots of different examples of things. All right, so let me go check chat very quickly before I go back and I'll tell these quick stories. But as I'm thinking about these things, let me know if you have any specific questions about, it could be learning in general, which I can answer, or even specific questions about maybe a word you don't understand or something like that. Because if you think about, again, learning a language generally, when you begin, it's almost like you have like an empty room. And you don't really know anything at all. Like if I just start learning Polish or something and I go into Poland and now I don't know anybody, I can't speak the language. Now I have to start figuring things out. So it's almost like I remember this game I used to play years ago called Warcraft. Maybe you know that game. I think World of Warcraft is still a thing. I've never played that, but this is many years ago. But they had a map of where the player enemies might be. So your army might be over here, and you don't really know where the other ones are because it's almost like a cloud covering the whole thing. So as you go looking at the rest of the map, you can see where, you can tell where things are. But you can actually, unless you have guys over there, you can't actually see what's happening. But the point is you get to see the terrain, or you get to see the map as you clear that off. So that's basically what's happening when you're trying to learn a new language. When you start, it's all covered in fog or clouds and you can't see anything. But as you start removing pieces, you feel more confident and actually be able to or become able to express yourself. So that's the basic idea of what a lot of people do when they're trying to learn is they try to add more vocabulary or grammar or kind of getting rules and things like that. But if you don't actually feel certain about what you're learning, then you're not really clearing the clouds away. You're not clearing the fog of war here. So it really makes it more difficult to understand the language and to speak. So again, I talk about this in my new book, The Strangest Fluency Secret, and if you don't have this already, you should click on the link in the description to get it. But I'll be talking about the things in the book a little bit more in this video. All right, so let me go back, check chat here. Mohammed says, Assalamu alaikum, hi from Indonesia. Ordo says, hi there. Azar says, hello from Saudi Arabia. The book to be published in Japan. Well, I think if assuming I do a physical copy of the book, so right now it's a digital, the first edition of it, and I'm nearly finished. I have 2 chapters left to release, but the digital edition is available immediately for people who get it. So when I release or assuming I do, I guess it really depends on how popular it is. So we'll see if I spend more time to make a physical edition of it. People are asking me for a physical edition, but that would probably, I don't know, when I finish the book and then get feedback on it. And the whole reason I'm releasing the book as I am is to make sure people understand, and if people don't have questions or if they don't understand something, really I want to show people how to understand and actually have one book that would teach you exactly how to get fluent in anything you like. So hopefully you can let me know. So give me feedback specifically about things you like or anything you feel that's missing in the book. And then once that is all done, I'll go back and decide if I want to release a physical copy of it or not. We'll see what happens, but it would not be, I don't think, like in a particular country, it would be available really anywhere. I would probably just release it, do like a print on demand thing where when you order it, the book is made for you and shipped out. So Amazon does this, and most people, like, it would be available on Japanese Amazon. I haven't decided what exactly to do yet, but I don't want to have a truckload of books at my own house. So we'll see. That probably would be the easiest way to set that up. But if you like the book, let me know. And we've got hi from Blue Sky. Olympia says, what about hi? Yep, you can say hi as well. So all of those things are fine. So you can say hey or hi, or how's it going, or what's up, or where are you? Just like I talk in the book about different greetings rather than having one specific thing that you might say. And then we have some Arabic there I can't read. Where do I start learning the language? I'm in Iraq. And I do not find people talking to them. All right, so if you're watching this video right now, it means you have access to the internet, and that's really all you need to learn and become certain about the language, and also be able to just feel confident about your words. So I've spent 20 years, and I feel like today I was thinking about it, I was just like, it's crazy how long it's taking me to figure out how to explain this. It's such a simple idea, but it sounds so unbelievable. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and they were saying it's kind of like the difference between saying, like, if everyone thinks that like the sun goes around the earth, so there's the earth in the middle and the sun goes around it. If you then start thinking the opposite, like actually no, the earth goes around the sun instead, then it's pretty hard to, even with lots of proof and showing people, it's hard to believe. So anyway, like basically what I'm doing with the book is showing people how to become confident and fluent even before they speak, because one of the biggest issues, like this person from Iraq is saying, is if you don't have anyone to talk with, how can you get fluent? And so that was even for me when I lived in Japan, and I still struggled to speak even though I had many people around to speak with. I realized that speaking was not the key to getting fluent, because even if I had speaking opportunities, that wasn't what was making me fluent. Now, there's a part of speaking which actually works, and that part is if you're able to understand things better and you feel more certain and confident about the language, that's what's actually developing your fluency. So it's really one simple idea, but it just sounds really unbelievable. I'll write it up here for you, as I usually do, but people typically think you speak to become fluent. And in my book, I talk about how you become fluent to speak. And that's why I call the book The Strangest Fluency Secret. So I laugh every time I think about it, because it's really not such a strange thing. It shouldn't be strange, because if you think about how most children, actually all children really, are learning the language, any language on the planet, they're spending a lot of time listening and understanding things and really feeling confident, and then they actually start speaking. So it's basically what people started doing when you were naturally learning languages. But there's something strange that happens when we start trying to learn a second language, and that's like we think we need to do it in a different way. And so actually I had another conversation with a friend of mine about this. Like, let me know what you think about this idea, because I think it could be helpful for people. And I'll get into my stories for today. So if you, and this was even kind of years ago, if you thought about searching for things on the internet, where would you go? Like if you were just looking for things, most people would be going to Google. So if you think search, so I'm looking for some kind of information, like I'm just sitting at home, I want to know what something is, or a fact about something, or how I can buy some new shoes or something like that. Most people, you just go to Google and search for stuff. And that's like if you have an idea, like if you think search, you think Google. And that's why Google became the large company that it did, because when you thought about searching for stuff, you thought about Google. So there were other companies like Yahoo and even other companies still today, but Google is still the main one. Now that's obviously changing with something like ChatGPT. And now more people are actually starting to ask AI information, and Google is actually having its own problem with giving people information with AI as well, because now Google, before you would come to Google and Google would tell you to go to some website and get some information, but now it's trying to give you information itself. And sometimes that information is correct, sometimes it's not. But now, like, this link is disappearing, and more people are kind of angry that Google is now not sending them traffic, because people aren't, like Google is just like, okay, here's your answer, which Google probably got from other websites anyway. So it's kind of like what ChatGPT is doing. Anyway, I don't want to get too long into this explanation, but the point is, when you think about search, you think about Google, and typically now when you think about asking questions, it's often some kind of AI like this for ChatGPT. Now, the interesting thing about language learning is that we don't have this. If you go out and ask people on the street, like, how do you learn a language? So we'll just put LL for language learning over here, and people will give you all kinds of ideas about how that works. Why do you think that is? It's like, okay, you got to do this thing or that thing or this company or that company or whatever. Like, there's all these different things. Why is it there's one thing for search? There's kind of like one thing here, and the answer could be that people actually just learn in all these different ways or whatever. Like, that's just kind of a natural thing people do. It could be, maybe. But The interesting thing is that this is usually the approach for learning a second language, but for learning your first language, we'll just put a 2 up here for second language and a 1 up here for language learning your first language. Everybody does it the same way. So there's just one thing. Just like with Google, there's just one thing. With ChatGPT, there's just one thing. With regular language learning, how you would learn your native language, everybody does it the same way. Your parents are just giving you more information over time. You start absorbing it, you feel more confident, and then you speak. That's basically what happens. But it's just a weird thing, and I thought about this for a long time. Like, why would it be like this? Like, why? Like, humans are not, it's like you can see very clearly that humans are quite different, except for this one thing over here that seems really odd. And I grant that, or I accept that, some people, maybe they prefer reading or they prefer doing or whatever, that's fine. But what's actually happening is it doesn't matter if you're reading a book or watching a movie or listening to something. The point is really that you're either understanding that information or you are not. That's it. Either you feel certain about what you want to say or you do not. So you'll see here, just look at the comments in this chat or any video or any comment section anywhere people are asking questions about how to learn or questions about the language. It means they don't understand and they don't feel confident about using something. But as soon as they do, then they can use it. That's the secret right there. That's the piece that actually works. So what's really happening when people are getting fluent in their native language is they're understanding things better over time, and then finally they can speak. All right, it just takes a while. You're giving people lots and lots and lots of information. I'll tell you a quick story about that in a moment. But with all these other things over here, it's like, why are there so many different approaches? And I thought about that for a long time, especially for myself. So I talk about this in my book, how we can have all these different things and yet people still aren't speaking. Now, either it means that really some people are good this way and some people are good this way and some people do this and some people do that. That could be true, but I assumed this is probably all incorrect. And there's probably one thing we need to do that people just aren't doing because they don't know about it or we don't talk about it or whatever. And that thing I found for me, and it's been true for lots of my learners, is becoming certain about what you want to say. So that's exactly what my book talks about. And so again, just looking for a very quick overview, typically people will tell you to speak to get fluent, but they'll also tell you other things like speak to get fluent, listen, you got to read or write or do all these other things over here. But the basic idea is that you really either understand something well enough to say it or you don't. That's it. So anytime you think about something, I want to say something, but I can't remember the word, or I'm worried about the pronunciation, I'm not sure if this is the right word for the situation or not. Any uncertainty, that's what's going to stop you from speaking. So instead of trying to think about it like, what do I need to speak fluently? The question is more, how do I erase, like that, the map example I gave before where we have the fog of war covering the whole thing. How do we erase that? How do we actually clear up the confusion so that we can speak? That's how we do it, all right? So the only thing I really focus on, and it's taken me 20 years, it's still taking me a long time, even longer than that, because I have to write the book, but this has been, like this whole time, been basically teaching the same way, which is taking specific doubts that people have and erasing those doubts. It's just like kind of cleaning up stuff in your brain. So if you learn a rule and you think you know the rule, but you're not actually speaking, or you hear even with a good teacher, they give you examples of something, but you don't also hear lots of other good examples of how native speakers are using the same language, you're also going to struggle, all right? So for me now, that's why I talked like at the beginning of this video about naturally varied review and how people can actually become fluent. So that's the whole thing I talk about in the book. All right, so going back to the question here, so what do I start, where do I start learning the language? I am in Iraq and I do not find people talking with them. So the answer to that is read the book. The point is not to try to find people to speak with. It's to eliminate the doubts and uncertainties and questions you have about the language. Because if you do that, what would stop you from speaking? What's left? It's like, there's there's a problem here and I can't see it. I need to uncover that. If I remove that, now I get to see what's happening, then I can speak. It's pretty easy. Now, I give an example in the book, or actually I give quite a few examples in the book about how people can actually do this, because it really is quite easy when you focus on the right thing. But the point is not to spend your time trying to speak, because most people can't do that anyway. You don't have time, or you don't have people to speak with, so it's a really frustrating way to try to improve. Instead, just clear the doubts. That's all you have to do. And each time you clear a new doubt, you feel more confident, because that's a new word you can use in a variety of ways. All right, Vincent says, hi, Drew. Vincent from South Africa. And Adelson says, what is the grand way to learn connected speech? What do you mean by that, connected speech? What do you mean by that? Just making sure we're on the same page there. But what's your specific question about that? Because really for anything, if you're talking about generally how to learn how to speak in a particular way, you just need examples of how natives actually do that. So typically with the way I teach, I try to help people understand something, and then I give them regular, real examples of how that works. So that way, kind of like when in my visual guide to phrasal verbs, the point is to help people understand something and then give them more figurative uses of the language. There's a specific kind of staircase or whatever that makes the explanation actually work for you. So it's like if I think in the previous, what was that, last week, last week's video, when I was talking about, what was I talking about? So if I give you an explanation of an idiom, I'll just review that one very quickly. So this was I'm swamped at work. Often when non-natives are watching or listening to native English speakers, you'll hear natives use idioms like I'm swamped, and you're just like, well, what does that mean? And if you don't have much context, you don't really understand, you just hear two people talking and one person says, I'm swamped at work. You don't really know what that means. It's not clear from this sentence here. It could be like I'm doing really well or I'm doing really poorly or whatever if you're just reading this. But again, this is typically how people learn the language, like from, instead of from the bottom, you're kind of going up to a higher level here where you're learning something like that, rather than what a native does where they learn typically what swamp actually means. And so I gave an example of that in that video. You're starting off with easier things, simpler things, and then moving up. Once you know what a swamp is, it's kind of, here I'll draw, here's some trees, and instead of just regular dirt on the ground, you've got some water in there too, maybe some alligators and other snakes and things like that. And if you imagine trying to walk through this, that would be pretty difficult, especially if the water is really high, or, oh no, I'm drowning over here, I've got so much going on. So this is what it means when we talk about an actual swamp. And from that, now we can work up to a more idiomatic or figurative use of the word. All right? So when we're talking about learning things like this, like the order is helpful if you can learn things in an easier way to a more complicated way first. Okay. All right, let's go back, finish up these comments over here. And let's see, what did I miss here? All right, Azar says, I'm watching, or happy to be watching from the beginning. Morning from Turkmenistan, says Arustam. Vincent says, it will be better to have both digital and hard copy to suit your students' needs as different learners with a different style. Yes, actually, I prefer reading a physical book also. But again, it kind of depends on the demand for the book. Like if only 3 people are asking for a physical copy of it, I won't bother. But if most people just like the digital version, then I might just do that. So we'll basically see. If you get a whole bunch of people to buy the physical version, then I'll make one. There you go. We'll make a deal. All right, Olympia says, I'm buying. So yes, if you want to get the book, you can get it right now. You don't need to wait. The digital version, all the information is there, even chapters 1 through 6. This is where I go through the whole system and how you can apply this yourself and how how to actually think and speak like a native. Chapters 7 and 8 are kind of showing some additional things that I discovered that is kind of after we go through the whole process. Now we can share some things about how the process worked and why it worked. And I'll probably even talk about some of the science behind why it works. But the proof is more seeing it as you go through the chapters of the book. All right, CNC says, hi there. How's it going, man? It's going all right. What have you been up to? I've been up to writing the book. So Olympia says, dear teacher, I'm anxious to have your book. You would say in my hands, but thank you very much. Yes, again, you don't have to wait. Just get it now. You can pretend it's physically in your hands by holding it in your phone or on your iPad or whatever kind of tablet you learn. All right, so Taku says, how to learn grammar naturally. Taku, do you have the book? Let me know if you do not, because if you do, I explain that in Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is also talking about that, but Chapter 5 is where I go into detail. I think I explained this before. But the subject of Chapter 5 is really how to learn the pieces of the language. We'll just call these pieces of the language. So this is like how to learn particular grammar or words or phrases or whatever, pronunciation. So what's happening for many people is when they're learning a new language, they begin with the pieces of the language like this. And so they look for, okay, I have a grammar point I want to say, or I have something in my native language that I want to use, and now I have to translate that into English and try to understand it in English. So I show how to go through this in Chapter 5. In Chapter 6, we do the opposite. We go from the language back to the pieces of the language and show you how all this works together. So it's kind of like directional. I call it directional learning if you think about it this way. So Chapter 5 is going from the pieces to the broader situation, and it's making it easier for you to understand particular grammar points and how to learn these things like a native. And then Chapter 6 is doing the opposite. It's going from situations and helping you understand the pieces. And the reason to learn from situations, which is what I go into a lot of detail about in Chapter 6, is because if you only learn the pieces, like learning particular grammar points or words, situations have way more information, like the tone of the speaker or the rhythm or the emphasis of words or all kinds of things like that. And so you really need both. You need to learn from the pieces and you need to learn from the situation. So I take one chapter for each of these. And this is really like the whole system right here, Chapters 5 and 6. Chapters 1 through 4 are really setting up like how it works and why it works. And then like if you follow these things, you can start applying that today and start clearing up any doubts you have about whatever. So if you have a doubt about a particular grammar point or how to use a word or whatever, the book shows you how to clear that up. All right. I hadn't anticipated so many questions today, but it's nice to see everybody here. Let's see, where did I go? All right, so Taco, yeah, let me know if you have the book or not, because if you do, just read Chapter 5. Fabricio says, hello from Brazil. Vincent again, hi Drew. How about you introduce Microsoft Team where we can interact with you and ask direct questions by talking with you? I think this will be very great to speak with you. Well, you're doing that now. You don't need Microsoft Teams to do that. There are also lots of like services or other people who offer live lessons if you're looking to speak with people. But I can tell you from experience, having taught in the classroom for many years, and I've seen especially people all over Japan who have taken private lessons or classroom lessons in person for years, and they still can't speak. It's not the speaking that you want to do. Like imagine, like let's say we do Microsoft Teams or whatever. So how often would we do that? Maybe like, I'm not going to do that every day. I mean, I think that would be impossible. So let's say I did that, I don't know, 30 minutes or even an hour. So 1 hour once a week. All right. So we have 1 hour, one time a week. and let's say there are, a whole bunch of people in that classroom. What's going to happen is I will be able to say something to maybe 3 or 4 of those people, and then that will be it. and everyone will have kind of wasted their time. Maybe you will have learned something, but the speaking part is not something that's really helping you understand the language better. So you using the language, I know it sounds backwards, that's why I call this the backwards way to get fluent, because the point is you get fluent first, and then you speak as a result because you feel confident about using your words, rather than speaking first and then not really knowing what to say, and you get stuck and you stumble and you trip over your words or whatever, and it's really more difficult to get fluent. So when I think about like what happens with courses, people, and it's frustrating for me because I'm a learner also. So I am a teacher of language, but also a learner of language. And so when I think about that, I would not join a course like this because it's not really going to be a good use of my time. I can hear examples of stuff, but I don't really care about hearing a teacher and another student talking about something. I want to see 2 natives at a level I can understand explaining things or talking about life or whatever. And I can find that very easily without having to go through typical lessons. And so again, like this is sold because people think they need to speak in order to get fluent. And this is why it's so difficult for me to tell people to do the opposite. But the opposite is so much easier. It's like if you think about, okay, I have to speak to get fluent, then okay, fine. Go speak with someone. Like, what are you going to do next? What is your actual plan for that? And most people do not have a plan. They're just like, okay, I need to find somebody to speak with, or they ask, people like me, like, hey, let's have a Microsoft hangout about something, and then of course it's going to be, it might not be a complete waste of time, but it would probably be, if you think about that hour of time, you can get much more input and help you erase any kind of doubts you have about whatever, all on your own. You don't need to have someone there waiting to explain stuff to you. It's nice if you do, but again, it's not necessary to do that. All right, prefer, okay. Hi, teacher. Oh, and hey, nice to see you there. I'm late, sorry, it's okay. Don't worry about being late. I just put these videos up and you can watch them anytime you like. Looks like Ulysses says, I'm late also, don't worry about it. Mal Grazada, nice to see you there. Hi, so happy to catch you live again. I have a night shift. Oh, wow. Well, you should be working. Don't watch a video. Get your work done. All right, Buddy says, I love Badger's certainty principle. Yeah, I guess maybe I'll come up with something like that, the certainty principle. But yes, the idea is just certainty first, because why not get to certainty as quickly as possible? That's really the idea. Mal goes out again, 6th chapter is great. Glad to hear it. What exactly did you like about it? That took a long time. That took me, I think, even longer than chapter 5 really to get that working right. But yes, I'm very happy to hear you enjoyed it. Let me know what specifically you enjoyed. Tom says, morning, everyone. Akash says, hi, Drew. How you doing? I'm doing all right. I really want to ask you about, like, when I listen to something that I want to say and imagine as that character, I feel confident, but it's hard to find that confidence when I want to say. Okay, so when you're imagining in your own mind, like, as a, I don't know, like, let's say I'm imagining I don't know, Pikachu, the Pokemon character, like speaking or whatever. So is that what you're talking about? You can kind of imagine something like that? I would remind you to pick a specific thing. Like, I think you wrote us before saying, like, about how to get naturally varied review, or like thinking it was difficult. It's actually easy if you just focus on a specific thing. So when you're even giving me an example here, be very specific. What exactly is it you want to say, or the kind of thing you want to talk about? And then I will just say, find that on YouTube, or find that, in a book, or whatever it is you're interested in. So if I want to learn about like gardening, for example, so I just got a gardening book in Japanese from a neighbor of mine, because I said I was interested in learning how to grow vegetables and stuff like that. So they just gave me a book, and I'm looking through examples of it and just thinking, like, oh, look at that. I mean, it's teaching me about the vocabulary and the grammar or whatever, but also about the vocabulary for for gardening specifically. So I'm learning the language, but also learning how to grow the vegetables and things like that. So again, if you pick a specific thing, you don't have to worry about trying to like imagine yourself as somebody else speaking. You can be that person speaking well. All right. So just like learn the actual thing you need to express yourself, whatever it is you want to say, and then you will start feeling more confident as you do it. But pick something specific. Don't just think about communication generally. You have to understand, like focus on a particular thing, just like I talk about in the book. Paulino says, hello, teacher. I'm Paulino from Angola. Love watching your videos. Glad to hear it. Jelton says, greetings from Brazil. All right, welcome everyone. David says, for a non-native speaker who wants to pass the TOEFL exam in a short period of time, what should they focus on targeted learning? I don't focus on particular tests, so I recommend you actually ask someone who does, because there are probably specific strategies specifically for something like TOEFL or whatever other test people might want to do. So I don't want to give you bad advice here. So I focus mostly, or pretty much all, on helping people speak conversationally, which obviously would help you on a particular test, especially if you have to speak. But if you need to prepare for a specific test, I would get information specifically from someone who focuses on that. And Nervophobics says, hi everybody, I am not being able to get the book from the link. What about others? Really? You should be able to get it. Let's see if that's working right now. Let's find out. Let's see. Yeah, it just worked for me. I'll just make it easy for people if you want to go there directly. So if you go to English Anyone, .com, so EnglishAnyone.com/the strangest fluency secret. Does that fit on there? There you go. Or did I put that, like put the slash the wrong way? Like thinking about it. Yes, all right, it's correct. So EnglishAnyone.com/TSFS, the strangest fluency secret. Or you can just click on the link in the description, which should work. Let's see. So that's exactly what happens in those English courses. Yeah, I think Tom is talking about what I mentioned earlier. Touch Falia. Let's see. Glad to see you, my friend. Mal Garzada says, are you wearing a new t-shirt? No, this is an old one. It's a little bit thicker though, so it's still actually quite hot. I probably should not have worn this, but I wanted to just wear something different. So, but no, it's not a new shirt. Nothing amazing. Let's see. Tom says, I prefer improving my English comprehension here with Drew. Yes. So if I can help you understand something, if you have a specific question about, whatever, grammar or something, I can do my best to help you understand that or give you more examples that help you understand that thing. Eunice says, aha, now I feel confident and can express all I want in English. Well, very good. Glad to hear it. Got with the fire and the thumbs up. And Eunice again from Morocco. So good evening, Drew, says Jilton. And Malgazada, I like most what you have told that you can gain fluency step by step by watching and listening to people doing casual things. Yeah, and so this is a thing a lot of people just forget. Like there's this kind of intermediate area. So people, let's say they're on YouTube, like we are all here on YouTube right now. And either you're trying to watch like English lessons, like this one right now. We're watching either learning about the language or some kind of tip videos or here's some grammar points or whatever. So people typically go to YouTube and get, English learning content, or they are maybe trying to watch like a movie or a TV series or something like that. So like native content. I'll just put NC for that. But there is this huge gap in the middle that most people don't utilize. And that is just everyday native speakers talking about the things you want to talk about. And so what we're really looking to do is model native speakers. And that means if I see people saying something in a situation, I can try to do that as well. I'm modeling their behavior, modeling their speech. That's why when I'm learning Japanese from people, I don't just say like, I don't just like get the word. I'm also getting like the feeling of it, the intonation, the specific way they say it. So here's a perfect example. I was watching a baseball game with my father-in-law last night, who is Japanese, and we're watching, it was like the Tokyo Giants versus, I forget who they're playing, but there was a scene where actually a foreigner, so like there are a couple foreign, I think this guy's from America. I think he had like a tattoo for the state of Tennessee, I think on his arm, if I saw that correctly. Anyway, so he was, if you know about baseball, there's a pitcher who throws the ball and you try to swing the bat and hit the ball, and it's I mean, it's not that complicated. But anyway, so this pitcher he was throwing the ball and then the batter struck out. So he had a couple of chances to hit the ball, and then he swung and he missed, and he kind of looked badly as he did it. And I hear my father-in-law, he's kind of grumbling. He's like, "Mom, what's going on there?" and if you look at that in a Japanese textbook, you wouldn't find that anywhere. It's like, oh, he can't hit the ball or whatever. Like, what's good on there? Like, and my father-in-law, he definitely mumbles, and it's harder to understand what he says often. But I'm paying attention all the time, and so I can learn things like that. So not only do I learn the specific wording that they use, but also how to say it. So that's what we're looking for. So in examples like that, like you can find people sitting and talking about whatever. Like if you want to learn about baseball or gardening or how to, if you're angry at your wife or whatever, people share all of their information on YouTube, and you can get it elsewhere as well. But YouTube is just, it's full of all that information, and more so than like anything else. Like for learning any other language, obviously you have people that speak all kinds of languages on YouTube, but I would guess English is probably the easiest one to find information about if you want to learn a particular language. So if I want to learn Thai or Vietnamese or something, I can probably find the same kind of thing, but it's much, much easier to find in English, I would imagine. So this thing here, you can become fluent simply by getting lots of examples of how other people speak. The same way as you basically become a native child, but you get to control the learning. That's the important thing. Remember that a native English-speaking child is just getting whatever information their parents are giving them. And maybe parents don't know how to teach very well. The parents just say things to kids, and often children don't understand. And maybe they find out later, maybe they do not. But if you can control your learning, then you can figure out, okay, I want to learn about this. Like at my job, I am a pilot and I need to talk about flying stuff. I can just go to YouTube and get lots of examples of that. I can get training videos from people talking about like what do we do in the cockpit, like a flight simulator video, and I can get lots of different examples of people talking about that. So different voices, different accents, different speeds. And as I hear all that, just by focusing on that one thing, it will also teach me lots of vocabulary and grammar useful for talking about other things. So as you focus, it really helps you understand the language. But that's the key. So yes, that's why I spent a lot of time talking about that. But when you're on YouTube, it's not just English language lessons or difficult content that's kind of scripted like movies or TV shows or whatever. You can watch regular English speakers just talking about stuff and learn exactly what you want to say. You get lots of examples of how to do anything you want. You could give me any example of something you'd want to talk about, and you can probably find it here. All right. I should be like a salesman for YouTube or something. People are already here, though. Let's see. All right, all right. All right, Drew says, Drew will read your message shortly. Did I skip something? Let me know if I missed it. Sheldon says, can I use the simple past most of the time instead of using the present perfect? Because I think the tense is so complicated. Now, this is another thing. I don't mention this example in the book, but I'm going to update or I think I will update like the book page, like with the information about the book to explain how it works. But I give a very simple example of how to understand things like the present perfect or whatever. So there's actually two issues here. The first one is that you have a particular grammar point that you're nervous about using because you don't understand it, all right? So that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about lacking certainty about something. The other question is, could you use just the simple past to talk about particular things? And the reason we have the present perfect is because it's demonstrating something else. But I'll give you the example that I'll probably share. I think I've given this before, but since you're asking about it, let me help clear up the doubt. So I'll leave the link here. So EnglishAnyone.com/TSFS. If you're just going there directly, that will take you to the book page, and you can get the digital version, even though it is incomplete. So I still have 2 chapters left to release. The whole system is now available up through chapter 6. That's really like the most important part of the book. And you will learn even more from 7 and 8, but I think even just having those chapters is plenty if you want to start improving today. All right, so if I begin with something like I have a marker. I have a marker. So I have a marker. You can see it's like a physical thing I'm holding right here. I have a marker. And just make sure I'm going back and answering that. Okay. So I have a marker right here. I can also say I have a shirt. So you can see this shirt, it's not a part of me, but it kind of is. Like I have it. I have this shirt over here. And so these are physical things that I can talk about that I'm controlling, or I own them, or I just have them in my possession. But I can also talk about I also have green eyes. So we call this color hazel. If you look closely, green eyes. So it's sort of a greenish brown color. But again, it's the same idea. It's not a physical thing separate from me. My eye is, I guess it's stuck on my head or in my head like this. But I can talk about it in the same way. So I have a marker, I have a shirt, I have green eyes, I have an idea. I'm thinking about something. It's in my head. I control it. I have an idea. All right? So this is another thing. I can't touch the idea. I can't physically reach in my head and talk about, okay, here, let me show you. Here's the idea. I got it. But again, the same thing here. I have an idea. It works exactly the same as I have a marker, I have a shirt, I have green eyes, I have an idea. Does everyone follow me so far? Should be pretty easy. Any questions about that so far? All right, pretty easy. Now, I have an experience. I have an experience. So when I have an experience, it means I did something in the past and now it's still with me. All right? So like yesterday, I went to a store and bought some ice. That's not a good example, but anyway, it's just something I did. So I bought some ice at a store yesterday. So I have that experience. I have an experience of doing something, all right? It's the same thing as like having an idea. So I have a shirt, I have a marker, I have green eyes, I have an idea, I have an experience. And if we talk about I have an experience, instead of saying I have an experience, it's just like I have, and we just say what the experience is. I have played. All right? So anything you want to describe, like I have played baseball. So sometime in the past, I did that thing. but it's still a part of me. An idea, just like my eye is a part of me. You can still see it here. Even my ideas are a part of me. And now the marker isn't really like a part of me, but when I'm controlling it, it is. Okay? And so when you're trying to learn something like this is a kind of naturally varied review where I'm just looking at different examples of a particular grammar point, but in a slightly different way. And this is also the benefit you can get from someone who knows how to teach the language, who can help you understand things better. But it is possible to do this by yourself simply by comparing different examples in this way. That's all naturally varied review is. So I have a marker, I have a shirt, I have green eyes, I have an idea, and I have an experience. It's still with me. So anything you want to talk about that is a part of you, something that happened in the past, that's what we mean by the present perfect. So it's like something that happened and it's still with you in some way. All right? So if we're just talking about the simple past, it's fine to say like, I played baseball. We're using the simple past of something like, many years ago, I played baseball. But I can also, if I want to talk about who I am, I'm describing myself as someone with that experience. I have played baseball. I have gone fishing. I have been a teacher for a long time. So if now we're trying to connect something in the past, like I have been doing something, we're still doing it in the same way, but we're describing an experience, but it's like an experience that is continuing like that. Okay? So part of your question here, you're again asking two things, or really asking two things. The first one is just, I have uncertainty about a particular grammar point. Like, how do we use, and again, instead of trying to think about this like how do we use the present perfect? If you go up to any native English speaker, they won't know what the present perfect is anyway. They'll just be thinking like, well, what do you mean present perfect? I don't understand that. But they will be thinking, oh, how do I talk about an experience I have? Like, I have experience, when I go to a job interview or whatever, and people ask me what kind of experience I have, like, oh, well, I have experience doing this, or I have experience doing that, or whatever. So I have played, or I have worked in technology for many years. All right. So even if I just want to say I have an experience, I have worked in technology. So I have been a teacher. All right. Maybe I still am a teacher. I can say I have been a teacher for many years. And in that way, you would be talking about an experience I have, but I still have it. I'm still connected to that thing. All right. So I played baseball. It's only talking about something in the past as just a particular event. But if you're talking about yourself and who you are, I have an experience. That's all we're saying. Okay? So it's not like a complicated thing if you just think about the idea of what you're trying to express like a native would, rather than trying to think about a rule and something like that. So it's like, oh, like I have this thing. I have that experience. You can feel that. All right? Like, yeah, I remember that. I played baseball, so I have that experience. I have played baseball. So it's the same thing as like I have the experience of playing baseball, but this is just a faster, easier way to say it. So I have played baseball. So we don't say like I have played baseball, because it's still something that happened in the past, but it's just continuing with us. All right? So, again, to answer both of your questions, hopefully this one gives you more clarity. Do you feel more confident now about using the present perfect in this way? Again, try not to think about it like a grammar point. Think about it as a pattern that you're learning for a particular situation. So if you want to describe yourself for some like experience you had, this is how you do it. Okay, so you can use the past simple if you just want to say you did something. Like, yeah, I played baseball. So if someone says, hey, did you play baseball when you were a child? I can say, yes, I played baseball. But I can also say I have the experience. I'm kind of talking about myself today, still holding that experience from the past. So I hold that experience of playing baseball. I have played baseball. I have eaten cookies. I have danced. I have been to the moon. whatever. All right. But you can see how these examples, it's not about trying to memorize a grammar point. It's just about eliminating the doubt. And mostly that comes from just seeing examples of how people use it. So when you see native speakers using things, how does a person talk about a particular situation? And so this is the main idea for chapter 6 in the book, which is what do people say in this situation? So when you see somebody talking about an experience they had, how do they do it? Some people might use the past simple, and that's okay. Some people might use the present perfect, but hopefully now you see the difference between the two. One is just talking about the event, the other is talking about me. Okay? So am I doing something in a particular situation, or did I just yeah, I did something? And typically people will only talk about a particular event, like, yesterday I went to the store. I don't care. That's not really like an experience. It is an experience that's part of me, but I don't really care. It's not like a part of my identity that I went to the store yesterday. But maybe something like, I have been to France or whatever. Like that's it's a thing I did, but it's also a part of me. So I can describe it either way. All right. But my goal is to help you so that you can use whatever you want to say. But again, the point is not to try to learn the language by studying rules and then hopefully you speak after the fact. It's more about clearing up the doubt. Let's just remove all that. Remove the uncertainty, get your questions answered, and then you will feel more confident about speaking. All right. Moving on. I had a plan for this video and I haven't done any of it. All right. Let's see here. Hopefully I didn't. All right. So hopefully that answers the question. Julian says, hi, teacher. And people hear greetings. You would say greetings from Colombia. It's a great opportunity to practice English. Yes, so this is really the practice here. It's just understanding the language better. So if I can help you do that, then you should speak more fluently, because why wouldn't you? If you understand the language better, you should speak better. That's how it works. Malgrazetta said, beside your course, I watch a lot of fashion content because I am interested in that, and I have picked up so many things from these videos. Awesome. That's great. See, Malgrazetta, perfect example of someone who understood, I just need to pick something and watch it. It's that easy. So if you like fashion, and you can go, Malgrazetta, even more specific than that, like fashion design or fashion critiquing or fashion, creation or whatever, like how people like the fashion industry. You can even watch more movies once you feel more confident, or if you do already, you could watch something like The Devil Wears Prada. So that's a movie talking about a fashion magazine and fashion industry and that kind of thing. But let your interests lead you to particular things you want to learn more about. So I came to Japan to learn more about Japanese gardening, and so I learned a lot of vocabulary about that. Let's see. All right, did I miss anybody else? All right, Ganesh says hello. Bridget, nice to see you there, for my favorite teacher. Awesome Smiles is Olympia. All right, and Manola is back. I got to watch out for Manola. All right, Bridget says, what about a buttoned-up shirt, Drew? I don't know. I don't. Maybe T-shirts are not my brand or whatever. They're kind of naturally my brand because I'm just more casual in conversation with people. But yeah, I don't really like wearing suits and ties and things like that anyway. I'll wear them if I have to, but it's uncomfortable for me. But maybe it could be a thing that I have to do. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not trying to look like on a video here where I have to. I've got shorts on. I'm just standing here making this video for you guys, and then again, it's kind of a marketing thing too, where maybe I should care more about that, trying to have a nicer presentation and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But I've spent almost all of my time just trying to help people understand one idea, and my feeling is that if I can get that correct, if I can really express it in the right way, then I'll be able to become that like a Google or ChatGPT, because everybody would basically be learning in that way. Because why wouldn't you? It's the way to learn. All right, let's go through these next ones here. All right, Tuck says, I didn't buy your book. I'll get it. All right, very good. Just click on the link in the description below this video or go to EnglishAnyone.com/TSFS for the strangest fluency secret. And Bai says, I learned Bikurishita from YouTube. Yes, and so if you see people like a Japanese person, you surprise them like Bikurishita, and you will hear it in a variety of ways. But again, that's the idea. Not to learn from the situation, but also to learn from the pieces. And I explain both of those in chapter 5 and 6 of the book. All right, Touch again says morning. Let's see, and Alan says greetings from Mexico. Akash again. You talked about acting like a native before. It's great to get varied reviews, but that does not let me actually like one if you get those examples from ChatGPT. Well, I'm not suggesting you get all of your examples from ChatGPT. Give me a specific thing you want to talk about, just like you already got a perfect example from Malgorzata a moment ago. So she is interested in fashion, so she watches videos about people talking about fashion, and there are lots of them on YouTube. So pick a specific thing you're interested in, whatever that is, and it's very easy to find lots of examples of how people would talk and how they would move and things like that. ChatGPT is most useful for helping you understand certain things like what does a grammar point mean, or could you tell me some other phrases that are similar to this, other things like that, like I give those examples in the book. But that's the idea. So the point is not to think about like, I don't know, just kind of generally, I need to go to ChatGPT and have it give me all these examples. You need to find actual natives, and ChatGPT is one piece of that. All right, so I can get varied examples of something on YouTube and act like a native by listening to them, by watching their facial expressions, but I think it's not possible to get examples of everything on YouTube. All right, well, I challenge you then. What is something you cannot find on YouTube? What is the thing you want to talk about that you can't find on YouTube? See if you can answer that. All right, Manola says, by the way, your eyes hypnotize me. Oh my goodness, Manola. Manola's going to be put on timeout. All right, Muhammad says, hello, friends. And let's see, D-Jump says, nice talk. It says, when I'm speaking, I do care about the grammar and word choice and things like that. It takes a few minutes to make sense, and I repeat it until I say it smoothly. How can I get over? Again, you don't have to worry about speaking in order to solve this problem. Like I explained in the book, just get the book. It really will explain everything, and you will think, oh my goodness, I don't have to speak. Here's how to get these examples and actually get certainty beforehand. So yes, that's the idea. So yes, if you're thinking about grammar and all these things that you're describing, it means you're lacking certainty about what you want to say. So get the certainty first and then start speaking. That's how it works. So it is possible to speak first and then try to become fluent that way. But it's just a lot more difficult for people because they're shy and people don't want to make mistakes in front of other people, or they don't have anyone to practice with. There are lots of reasons why it would be difficult to do that. And it's very, very easy to do the opposite, which is becoming fluent first. And I know it sounds odd, like I have to be very careful about how I explain this in the book, and I don't really mention fluency until the very end of chapter 6, and really not even until chapter 7 that I talk about it kind of after the fact, because it's just so unbelievable to people that they would become fluent in something even before they speak. But if you think about it, when you're listening to content in your native language, like you watch, like I'm guessing if you were, well, yeah, maybe you're Japanese, I don't know, but whatever, wherever you're from or whatever your native language is, you probably watch the news or listen to information or watch videos or something in your native language, and that content will teach you whatever that vocabulary it is, and then you feel confident about using after that. So that's how you learn new things in your native language. You just do that in English. So it's pretty simple. And YouTube makes it very easy. Again, like YouTube is part of it, you can use AI or other things like that to get examples of things as well. But the point is not really to speak, it's to eliminate the doubt. You want to get rid of the questions or solve the problems or whatever it is you're misunderstanding, and that will help you feel more confident about the language. All right, you guys are talking to each other. Enjoy the time that Drew is here so you can clear your doubts. There you go. And Uzmanov says, hi, Drew. Greetings from Uzbekistan. I really enjoy your lessons. How can learners develop a natural feel for English beyond grammar and vocabulary? That's what I talk about in Chapter 6 of the book. So this is where we're moving from, again, Chapter 5, where we're talking about the pieces of the language, like how can I understand this grammar point, or what does that word mean, or something. We want to go deeper and actually learn from situations, the same way natives learn. So natives are also asking questions about how does this word work, or what is this grammar point, or whatever. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. So this is one of the stories I wanted to share anyway, but since I just keep answering questions for people and we've been talking for an hour anyway, I don't know how much longer I'll go. So I was out this past weekend with my family, and I was walking around, and my younger daughter, Noelle, who is 6 years old, she kind of walked up to me as we were walking on the street, and she said, "What's a sampuru?" A sampuru. And I said, "A sample?" Like, and so she's using the katakana, like kind of Japanese pronunciation of that, because she heard it from a lady who was offering, like, you can basically taste some food that she had on the by like the corner where people are walking around. And I said, "Oh, that's a sample." So she thought the lady meant like the name of the food was called like sampuru or something like that. And I said, "No, it's a sample. What was that lady offering you to do?" And she thought for a moment, and she said, "Oh, try the food." And I said, "Yeah, that's what it was. So you were getting a sample of something." And so I just kind of let her sit with that for a moment. And so we go into a department store, and we're up at the little toy section for a while. And I happen to see it's like a little baby toy. Maybe you have another example of the present perfect. Maybe you have seen that before. I'll just draw a picture of it here. But it was kind of this little, almost like a triangle thing, where it had like different little things that it's just kind of a little touch thing for a baby. Like it had a piano thing, you could touch the little pieces and make notes on it or whatever. But on the side of it was written in English. I was really surprised to see sample. And so I saw this on a shelf, and I showed it to Noelle, and I said, "What does that say?" And her reading is getting better, and she kind of sounded it out. She was like, sample. And I said, "Yeah, it's a sample. So this is a sample toy. So what do you think that is? Like, this is not the one we can buy, but we can sample it. We can try it and see how it works." And then she kind of got the idea. This is another kind of naturally varied review, where we have one example of a word like sample and another example of a word like sample. And then she starts to figure out like what is the or kind of the meaning of something like sample. And so she got a sample of this, and I said, "This one is just a sample. It's a way for us to try it, to see what it's like, and if we want to, we can buy the actual one in a box. So this is just a sample, just like we got a sample of food from that lady out there. It's not all of the food. They have more of it. If we want to try that one and we like it, then we can buy more of them. We can get a sample of something like that." And so in that way, that's how she started to understand the word sample. Now I could go even further, like talking about the difference between sample and example, because both of these have a common, like, example, E-X-A-M-P-L-E. So both of these have a common root in Latin from the word exemplum. So both of those, like, they came through kind of French and Old English, but now we use them as two slightly different meanings of example, which is, it's kind of like, here's a pattern or something, like, this marker is one example of many kind of markers that I have. It's one example. Here's another example of that. Here's another example of this marker, or of a kind of marker. But a sample is like, here, you try. That's a sample. And so as Noel hears those different examples, and as you hear those different examples as well, you feel more confident about what something means. So it's not about speaking or repeating something. It's about getting enough variety until you really understand something. And you don't always need lots of examples. The point isn't just to like get tons of examples. It's just to get to certainty as quickly as possible. So sometimes a simple story can help you, just like I've given you this example in a story. But you hear I'm using the word sample and then using the word example also to help you understand that. And so this is where we can really understand things very well, and that's how natives are developing fluency. But you can do the same thing because you can see lots of people talking about things in this way. So really, whatever it is you'd like to learn about, you can start doing that. The key here is just eliminating the doubt, not trying to speak or trying to do the typical things that people think they need. So it is useful to watch, movies or TV shows, things like that. But again, if it's causing you more doubt, it's probably not going to help you very much. The point is not simply to know, information or whatever. It's to feel certain about it. All right. Let's see. All right, did I miss anybody here? So again, how can learners develop a natural feel for English beyond grammar and vocabulary? That's what I talk about in chapter 6 of the book. So this is the same kind of idea. So where you're getting a natural feel for how vocabulary works, and again, seeing things in action is the way to do it. You want to see how natives are actually using the language, and that's typically how they're learning even things like grammar as well. All right, Jelton says, thanks a lot for the explanation. Glad to hear it. People all over the world, yeah, we do. Siciliano or Siciliano, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You guys are talking with each other, I guess. Let's see. Malgrosada says, got to go back to work. Catch you tomorrow. All right, well, I look forward to you reading the next 2 chapters. All right, are you teaching people offline, sir? Well, I only teach my family at this point. I don't have like classroom lessons or anything because, again, it's less valuable for those people. Like, let's say I did one-on-one lessons. People still ask me about one-on-one lessons, and I don't do them because it would just be like an hour a week to talk with somebody when you could improve much faster just by getting lots of good examples or even using Fluent for Life. I built that so that you can actually just go through those examples and get all of them. It's not really about you speaking and getting feedback from me. It's just you speaking and seeing lots of examples of how other people speak. So you can correct your own mistakes. So that's what I do in Japanese today. Typically, I don't need to ask a teacher. I don't have a specific Japanese teacher. And even if I ask my wife things, and she is Japanese, I often don't get answers. All right. But no. So again, I want people to improve quickly. And again, this is more it's just a thing people think they need, which is why it's easy to sell something like that. So people think they need to practice speaking. But again, I've been living in Japan long enough and teaching people in classes long enough that I've seen the results of that. Even if you have a good teacher, you still need to get examples of lots of different native speakers to really feel confident and prepare yourself for real communication. All right. So even if you worked personally with me, I would still tell you, okay, now I want you to go and watch these videos about this other stuff too, which will actually train you even more. All right. So teachers will typically make things easier, and that will stop you from being able to really recognize the language when you're in real communication situations. All right, Manola, again, let me see what kind of shorts you are wearing. Let me see. There you go. Special edition, underwear only edition for Manola. All right, let me wrap that back up again. Oh no, I'm gonna have to make some adult content over here. Hopefully, I don't have to do that. We'll see if I can continue to do my job well. I can hopefully continue teaching. We'll see. All right, Tom there holding it down for Manola. All right, as it says, all right, thanks. Bye. Bridget says, ah. All right, morning from Bangkok, says Jenny. Hello from Scuba. Nice to see you there. I think we're here to learn English. All right, I'll have your book soon. Olympia, just get it immediately. I'll report Manola. All right, let's see. Morning from Taiwan. All right, MBO says, what is the difference between figure out and find out? That's a good question. Typically, figure out and often we have to remember that these are for specific situations. So a typical learner question is like, here, let me use black. So learners will ask a question like this: what is the difference between find out and figure out? And I will first have to make it clear that it depends on situation. So anytime you're asking questions like this, the point is not just to figure out which of these is like meaning one thing and which means another, because they could mean different things in different situations. But for example, let's say I'm working on a puzzle over here. So these are bad looking puzzle pieces, but since my book talks about puzzles, I figured I would use that. So right now, I'm trying to figure out this puzzle. I have a problem, and I'm trying to understand how the pieces go together. I can't quite figure it. I can't figure, when you think about a figure like a shape of something like that, like a figure, like a figure, like it could be like an action figure, same kind of thing, a figure. So figuring out is like, I can't quite see the shape of the thing, I can't quite understand it, but I'm trying to do it myself. Now, if I try to find out the puzzle, we wouldn't say that, because finding out is more like trying to get an answer about something from somebody else. So here I'm trying to figure it out, like I'm trying to solve it, trying to understand something. But if I want to find out something, it's typically I'm trying to locate some information. So I don't know how tall a friend is, and I need to buy him some new shoes or something like that. So I need to find that out. I don't really need to figure out how tall he is. I just need to find out, because it's just information. It's not really a problem for me to solve, like I don't understand the logic of it or something like that. So that's in this situation where we're talking about specific things, like I need to figure out like how much gas is going to cost me for like a trip across the United States. So in that sense, I could be like figuring out, like kind of calculating, but I could also say I need to find out, because I just need to know that information. So if you think about it like, again, in this situation, to figure something out, like I'm trying to go through the numbers and doing the information over here. So that's going through the work. But finding out is kind of getting at the solution. Okay? So sometimes like people just want to find out the answer. Other people want to try to figure it out themselves. Okay? So if you watch a movie with somebody, we might be having, for example, like a murder mystery, and some people, they're trying to figure out, like they're like, oh, this happened, and then that happened, and then this happened over here. They're trying to figure out who did it, who was the murderer. But some people, they don't care about figuring it out. They just want to find out who did it. They just want to know the answer. Okay? So typically, remember this, I'm going into a couple of different examples of it so you can understand how it works. But remember, the point is not only to just think about what is the difference between two different things, it's also to remember that these are used situationally. So you need to understand them situationally as well. So this is another reason, again, in chapter 6 of the book, where I talk about how we understand things from situations. If you watch people trying to solve puzzles, you will hear this more. But if you want people, or you hear people just trying to get answers for things, it's typically this one. Okay? But there are some times where we could use both, although the meaning might be slightly different. Like I just gave the example of like driving across the country, and I need to figure out how much money it's going to cost me. All right. So when I say I need to figure it out, I'm going to maybe do some math or some calculations. I need to figure it out. But if I want to find out, I really just want the answer. Okay, so sometimes natives they're not thinking so precisely about words in this way, and also that's how you could use both of these in the same situation sometimes, but not others. Okay, so I know it's nice if you can just get this means this and that means that, but if you think about your native language, it probably doesn't work like that either. There are some things that work well for some situations, but not others. And even when we have two related things like this, this is why it's nice when we have an actual teacher who can explain things. So again, you can find these things out yourself, or you can try to figure them out by yourself, all right? But if you have a teacher like me who is there to actually help you understand things, that's what Fluent for Life is. Fluent for Life is it's like thousands of these little lessons. So I'm basically trying to give you aha moments right now where you're like, okay, now I get it. Like, look at that, I'm figuring it out. I'm like typing some figures in the computer or in a calculator or something like that. And then, now I found out the answer. Okay. So we can talk about the conclusion of something as you figured it out or you found out, because like the conclusion is still either you did the work and you had the answer or you just got the answer. But either way, it's the same thing. All right. So when you think about things like this, notice that I'm spending, I don't know, what is this, like a few minutes talking about just two words like this. But if you spend time, if you clear this doubt, you will think, now I got it. That's one less doubt. Now I feel much more confident about speaking and I can move on to the next thing. Okay? And as you remove those doubts, it gets faster and easier, and then you're just speaking and you realize, wow, I'm actually speaking the language because I feel confident that I'll use it correctly. Pretty easy. All right? It's much faster, much easier. There's really no downside. So I don't know what is stopping people from following this approach other than just not believing it's possible. But every video I try to give examples of how it works. So hopefully if you feel more confident now, let me know. Are people feeling better about this? The difference between find out and figure out? Does that make sense? Are you feeling more certain about it? More confident about using this? Okay. So I need to find out maybe some good places to eat for dinner. But I could also try to figure those out, like I have to look up online or whatever, same kind of thing. So there's some times when you could use both, but understand like a native, if you ask them, they could probably explain something like I just did about the nuances of which meaning or like which one means exactly what it means. All right, but let me know if that makes sense. All right, let me see if I can go through a couple of these. Did I miss anybody? All right. And I'm Manuel again. I did not say a bad word. I think so. But Julie, you don't need to report me. I'm leaving by myself. Keep going. The limit is the sky. All right, Usmanov says, find out, learn new information you don't know before. Figure out problem is like solve a problem by thinking. Yeah, that's a pretty good example. Jack, again, like remember, if we try to get just like a definition or a simple example, we might still miss things. So it's good, continue to get examples until you feel confident about something, until you feel like the doubt is gone. Let's see. Hi from Indonesia. Hi from China. Rainer says, love that reasoning behind figure out versus find out. Glad to hear it. All right. Excellent Astar says, excellent Astar, Drew. I don't know what that means, but thank you. All right. Well, I plan to tell a different story today, but I think it's just as well we leave it here. Again, the point is, a lot of people think they need to speak or they need to live in an English-speaking country or they need to study more or whatever, all of these other things. But it's pretty easy to prove to yourself that if you're doing them already and you have been doing them for a long time and you're still not speaking, maybe you should try something else. And that thing is typically becoming certain. And so often you can become certain about the vocabulary you already know. So even without learning any new things, you can just take the vocabulary that you know already, that you have questions about, answer those questions, and you will start speaking better. I mean, why wouldn't you? Okay. All right, before we leave, if anybody has any questions about this, let me know. But you can also go to EnglishAnyone.com/TSFS to get The Strangest Fluency Secret. So this is the digital version of the book. You can begin reading it immediately. I go into a lot more detail, way more than I've talked about in this video, but it's also easier to understand. I've given some visual examples as well. But when you understand that you don't have to wait for anybody, you don't have to wait for a teacher, it is nice if you have someone to explain things, just like I explained this. But even if you do not, it is possible to become much more confident and fluent simply by erasing any doubts you have about the language. All right, well, it looks like we have no additional questions other than George from Brazil. I think I mentioned that already. But thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. And we'll see how much further I am with the next chapter of the book. It might be ready next week, maybe not. We'll see. I like to try to make sure I have them looking good and explaining things well, but so far in all 6 chapters, people have enjoyed them, and I'm glad to see that. So it's making sense for people. If you do not have the book already, let me know why. Is anybody not buying the book? Let me know. What information would you still need to know in order to get the book? Because I'm always curious about like if you don't believe something about it, or if you're curious but think it wouldn't work for you or something. Let me know. A star lesson. I see, that's what that means. You're giving me a star for that one. Is it only 1 star? It should be a 5-star lesson. We need more stars over there. But anyone who has not purchased the book already, let me know if you have any questions about it. What would stop you from getting it? Or if anything I have explained so far in this video or the other videos has not made sense. Because the whole point of what I do is to try to make the language clear. And I know it's simple when I draw it on the board, but it really is hard to believe for a lot of people. Like, fluency is only something that comes when you start speaking, right? Isn't that what people think? I don't know. I certainly thought that, but when it wasn't working for me, I thought, okay, how do I need to find a better way, because speaking was not actually helping me improve. Let's see, I think Yves just said, how can I buy the book? Just click on the link in the description, or you can go directly to EnglishAnyone.com/TSFS, and that's for The Strangest Fluency Secret, and you can get the book there. But yes, please, anybody who has not purchased it, if you just don't buy books or you're not interested or whatever, that's fine. But for people who are thinking about it but have not yet bought the book, I'd love to know why. Again, I'm here in like this is the strategy I use to get fluent. It's the same thing I've used to help lots of other people become fluent. It works. And although I still think it really is the way everybody should be learning, I don't want to like push that on people if they're not ready for it. But if the things you are already trying are not working for you, then this is a very easy, very simple thing, and you can prove it. And if it doesn't work, you get refunded anyway. But I think everybody is enjoying the book. I haven't heard bad things about it yet, which is good. But yeah, if you have any questions before we finish up, let me know. Looks like nobody has any questions though. All right, that would help me. Let me know if you're thinking about anything. All right, well, it looks like it's the end of this video, but thank you very much for joining me. Again, if you would like to learn more about the whole process, whether you think about joining Fluent for Life or not, get the book first. That's really what I recommend. I really wrote this so like people thinking about joining Fluent for Life should really read the book first, so they understand why I do what I do, and what can actually help them speak. So I want to really help you understand why you struggle, even if you've tried lots of things already. But it's a really interesting thing that most people just don't talk about certainty. It really is a thing that people struggle with, but it's almost a hidden thing. So people think if they know more words, that will reduce or eliminate the problem, but typically it's not working like that for most people. Anyway, if you have enjoyed the video, do click the like button, click on the links in the bottom or below this video. Every time explain to us a chapter. Yeah, so I talk like in most of the videos I've done over the past month or so have been talking about specific chapters, and when probably maybe the next video I'll talk about chapter 7, what's in that. But again, the actual system, the specific things I recommend you do, that's really in chapter 5 and 6. So if you're just looking for what exactly do I have to do, that tells you what it is. So you don't have to wait for anything, even though the book is finished. That's what you have to do. The book's front of you. What does that mean? The book's front of you. Let me get a drink here. Oh my goodness, I've been talking for 90 minutes. But I feel better as people understand things better. And when you understand things better, like find out versus figure out, then it becomes a lot easier for you to understand. And you'll notice even things like this, it's a lot easier to understand experientially, like rather than me just saying, oh, find out means this and figure out means that. If I just told you that, it's intellectual, and yeah, you might get it and understand it, but you probably don't feel that certainty. And so that's why I talk about getting lots of examples where you actually see natives talking about things. Just like I try to give lots of examples in these videos to help you understand things as well. All right, well, it looks like the actual end of the video, and I will see you all next time. No further questions, but again, click on the link in the description if you have not gotten the book already. If you have any questions about it, or there's a reason you're thinking like why you have not gotten it, or any questions about anything else, you can leave a comment or just send us a mail at info@englishanyone.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.